today I've got someone that I know is going to inspire all of us. It's Andy Jones, and his title is Performance Director at John German Estate Agents. So welcome, Andy, first of all.
Thank you. I don't know whether about inspiration, but I'm here.
I know you're going to inspire us. So you just inspired me just before we started this, so I know you inspire us. So Andy, why don't you just start, for people that know John German, just tell us the sort of size, how many branches, how many staff it has, and then I can ask you some questions.
Certainly. John German is, the company's been going a long way before me. It was 1840.
Oh, okay.
So it's been going a long time. Mr. John German himself opened it. We have 10 branches that cover parts of the Midlands, whether that's Uttoxeter on one side and Stafford, all the way across to Loughborough and East Leek. 10 amazing branches, and the coverage is massive. You might have seen all the yellow boards with sold slips on all over the Midlands, hopefully.
Like it. Okay, good. And roughly how many staff have you got? How many?
There were, in the business, I would imagine there's close to 100.
100. Okay.
Decent size operation.
So yeah, big operation. So what's your backstory, Andy? How did you get to become performance director at John German?
Well, I've been in property, as most people have. I've been in for about 16 years. October 2006. So, 17 years, yeah. And worked in the corporates to start with. Wasn't really for me. I was told I was too nice, so that didn't last too long. And then recently, before John German, I was working in either the hybrid world of the purple bricks world, or I was had a few businesses building prop tech and fintech, which gave me a great insight out as to how a estate agency could operate, some gaps. And then prior to John German, I was a director of Spice of Heart before I came here. Yeah. So I've been all over, up and down the country. Motorways and hotels is my life.
So how long, just remind me, how long have you been at John German?
So I have been, almost a year. I think I'm 3 weeks off a year.
Oh, wow. You got a happy anniversary almost. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
So what does performance director mean? Because that's not a common title you see in a estate agency. So what does that mean?
Everything. Performance of the business, whether that would be sales, conveyancing, FS, income, social media, anything to do with performance. Training's a big part of what we do.
Right. Okay.
Wherever we can make marginal gains. It's not really a huge gains business because it runs exceptionally well anyway. So it's more marginal gains here, 1% here, 1% there.
Yeah. So you're squeezing the extra bits out of you're getting the extra bits out of your staff to increase their performance, but also your third party partnerships as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's I've never worked anywhere with such talent as John German. I genuinely mean that. It's just exceptional. So they're so good that there's no glaring, obvious holes. It is really marginal gains. How can we? Because everyone's pulling in the same direction. It's just a case of steering them.
Sure. So Andy, just explain. I know what marginal gains is, but can you just paraphrase for everyone what marginal gains is, and maybe if you've got any examples of something that's really worked for you on marginal gains?
Yeah, certainly. So I took inspiration from Sir Dave Brailsford, who managed Team Sky cycling. Before he came along, they'd never won the Tour de France, and he came along and took a good operation and made it exceptional. Whether that was and he actually made the wheels rounder, which sounds insane, or made the shorts slightly more aerodynamic, and it was 1% here and 1% there, and those 1% added up to multiple Tour de France wins. And that blew me away when I read that story. It was inspiring. So that's what we try and implement. For example, if we have a price adjustment, we try and avoid the word reduction because it's a nasty word. Can that price adjustment be slightly better? Can we go to a right move bracket instead of just reducing by X? And can we ensure that our pictures or our marketing is as good as it can be? All of these tiny marginal gains really do add up to a win. And that's the idea behind it. Where can we find marginal gains?
So it's pretty fair. I mean, I believe that it's the same as compound effect and it's the same principle. Have you got any is there any particular story that stands out for you in your business where you've used it and it's over that period since you've been there, it's made a big difference for the business, do you think? Or?
I guess one of the projects we've been running, and I truly believe that we are worth the fees that we charge. I've seen the world of cheap fees. I was in it. I was responsible for building some of it, and I apologize. It doesn't help anybody. So I truly believe that the fees are worth your fee. And we've gained a lot from keeping our fees where they should be, but you're only going to keep the fees where they should be if your marketing is as good as it can be, if your customer service is as good as it can be, if you truly believe that the customer is paramount, don't just use it as a strap line, then you really can make your proposition as good as it is. And one of the things that we've succeeded with is keeping our fees where they should be when everyone around us has been dropping theirs. That's been a big achievement for us. And when you add up all these hundreds of pounds over X amount of sales, it's a big difference.
Yeah, so by giving clients more value, your marginal gains, you give them more value, so you've been able to maintain your fees at a good rate by the sounds of it. So that's how it's helped you.
It has, yeah. So our mantra would be, how can we help this customer? What can we actually do for them today to help them succeed tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's always at the forefront of our mind. And it really helps us. It gives us clarity as to where we want to go, because we know that if we can help somebody today, they will succeed tomorrow, and it's a win collectively. That's right.
We're all here, aren't we, to provide solutions for our clients, and the better solutions you provide, that's what actually gives you. That's what clients don't mind paying for that, do they? Because if they get a better solution, I would pay extra for it, because they're going to resolve my problem more quickly and in a better way. So 100%, I agree with that. So let me ask you a quick question. In sales, what's the biggest problem, do you think, in the industry? What's the two things that is at the front of all estate agents' mind at the moment, do you think? What's the issues?
So I guess two glaring issues would be, actually it falls into one issue. We need to get properties from offer accepted through to completion. And we've got two issues that would add up to a big issue within that. So base rate up, the base rate went, that's tough to say, the base rate went up again. We knew it would, but that has instigated a few fall throughs. People panic. So fall throughs are not as bad as they were, but that's an issue. And then getting properties through to completion as quickly as possible. If you ask ask somebody on the street, and if you ask 1,000 people on the street, they will probably tell you that 12 weeks is probably the maximum time that it should take. Some people think it's 8 weeks. I think it's 65% think it's 8 weeks. Yeah, that was from Alistair. So that's not my stat. I took another stat. But we've got to get these properties through to completion, and it's so tough. I think the national average is now 24, 25 weeks. That is horrendous. We've got to get these properties through. It's a big, big, big challenge. Turning your pipeline twice a year versus turning it 4 times a year is twice the lot.
It's terrible, isn't it? I mean, I was an estate agent. Obviously, I'm conveyancing now, but I was an estate agent, and we always turned that pipeline 4 times a year. And now, you're absolutely right. The national average was about just over 5 months, and I think it's just getting nationally, it's getting worse and worse. Like overall, the country's getting worse and worse. So I say that impact on your turnover, the impact on being able to pay your staff, the impact on providing a good service is massive. So I think, for me, I think that's a massive problem. Can I ask you a question? Why do you think some people in the industry don't see that as the problem you see it? Some people are perfectly happy. I know you've done a lot we're going to ask about what you think your solution is to that. I know you focus on that a lot, but why do you think some people don't see that as the problem? I don't understand it, because we're here to provide a service. The agent's here to provide a service and get transactions through, really.
Yeah, I think that's the golden question. I would imagine maybe there is apathy out there. And what I mean by that is, does every estate agent actually feel like they can affect the process in any way?
Yeah, it's true.
We do know of some estate agents, and obviously I wouldn't name anybody, but they sell a house and then wait for the call for completion. That's it. They don't interact at any point. We know from our sales progression team who are, if I can give them a plug, unbelievably good.
Mm.
They influence the process. They know that we can speed it up by helping the buyer, helping the seller, getting everybody working together. So it's a frustration for us because we know it's possible to speed it up. If you don't believe you can speed it up, you'll just accept it as the norm.
Mm.
And it isn't. You can affect it, you can help. And that's why I would imagine it is so valuable, that time.
Eddie, so this is Property Bants and Rants. So my rant is exactly, you're saying the right thing. It's taking too long to get deals through to completion. It's just absolutely mental. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think as agents, we sometimes feel that we've got no power to do anything. And applying marginal gains, it's those little things. If you're making the calls at the right times, getting through the right people, are involved and working closely with your conveyancer, actually that's what makes the difference. And that's what gets the deals through. And that's why people can convert. You can turn your pipeline more than twice a year, which is absolutely ridiculous. To convert your pipeline twice a year is I say it's ridiculous. It's a bad thing in the market, but you have got control of that, and you can make more money out of that, and provide your clients with solutions. So let me ask you a question: how are you dealing with? What do you do then? You've mentioned it in a way. You've got a great sales progression team, so that's how you're dealing with the problem, basically.
Yes. So, month today, we're on the last day of the month. We're at 14 weeks, bang on this month.
Wow.
For our times. We're at 16, we've come down to 15, we're down to 14. My goal is to get us to 13 so we can go back to the good old days of guaranteeing we'll turn it 4 times a year.
Yeah.
But our sales progressors they're not simply there, they're not reactive. They are proactive, and they have great relationships with the solicitors, the conveyancers. And they're always asking, what can I do today? Well, this is outstanding. I will get that for you. I'll come back. And when I've got that, what's the next step? We have the buyer and the seller working together because we all want to achieve one thing, and that is to hand over those keys, let the seller leave the house in peace, and let the new buyer walk in and go, wow, this is amazing. So if we can speed up the process in any way, if we can find out when the searches are back and not miss a trick, if we can get draft contracts out, whatever we can do to shave off a day, because a day here and a day there is 2 days, it's marginal gains again, and it adds up. And we found that we can have a big influence over that process, but we need to have everybody working together, because if they're not, it's game over.
So just remind me, tell me what you've done, because those are really good figures, aren't they? So tell me what you've done. You've brought it down from what to what? Just remind everyone that's listening.
So we were at around 17 weeks. We've always been quicker than the national average because we've always had this sales progression team. So we're at 17, we got it down to 16. It was a longer time to get 16 to 15. It's like getting your handicap down in golf.
Yeah.
Go from 18 to 10. Yeah. Shaving those few extra strokes off is difficult. Getting down to 14 has taken us a longer amount of time. And I would imagine getting down to 13 is going to be like getting down to scratch, but we will get there. It's not even a slow process. We've had this done now, maybe 6 months it's taken us to get down to this. So it's working, but I'd love to get it down to 13.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the right thing to do. And that's your marginal gains there and then, isn't it? So you must take time to control the conveyancing, because it's important that you get the right people on your cases at the start.
Yes.
You spend time doing that. I mean, that's another easy win, isn't it, really, for agents that not all agents do. And of course, client's got to be given choice. You can't not sell a property to a client because they're not using your lawyer. But if you're giving good advice and you believe in that lawyer, I imagine you work quite hard on doing that at the outset.
We do. So we're salespeople at the end of the day. We can only sell something we believe in.
Yeah.
If people can hear in your voice that you don't really mean it, they can pick up on that. We work with a select group of conveyancers, and all the conveyancers have a few things in common. They're proactive. They want to work with us. We're all part of the same team. They don't send letters anymore. They pick the phone up.
Pick the phone up. Gosh.
The phone up.
People that do that, amazing. That's a in itself, yeah.
But they're out there. And they work the same way that we work. We give them everything back, of course, in return. And we found a few solicitor conveyancers in each area that work in this proactive way, and they're the ones that we try and work with. Of course, we can't force a conveyancer onto a buyer or seller. That's illegal. Never do that, just to let everybody know. But we can recommend, and which we do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. So you covered what's the impacts on the industry. What's an impact? So what's a big issue for your business? I mean, it probably the same sort of thing, really. That the impact is that conveyancing, if it takes so long to get to completion, that impacts your pipeline and your cash flow. Is there anything else in addition to that? Is staff an issue? Are you always looking for good staff? What's your policy on that?
Yeah, we have amazing staff. Our issue isn't finding people. We have amazing people. Sometimes they're all, and the testament to them is they're always headhunted. People want
retention is the problem.
Retention sometimes. People tend to stay with us because we treat them so well, but they're always being approached. Always. There's a gentleman, I won't name his name, but he's one of our valuers. He's approached every single day without fail by somebody. So the pipeline's one impact, but then it impacts on the customers. They, after, let's say, 10, 11, 12 weeks, they start to get a bit twitchy. It should be through by now, and it's not, and we're nowhere near. It can impact on morale sometimes if we had a prediction for a branch and, we're not quite there, and we knew it was going to go through today, but we've just found out there's an issue and really should have known about that. And it can have many, many issues. But on the flip side, when they start to go through quicker, it's just elation and positivity for the business, which is what we need to keep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're saying what I'm saying, and say we were estate agents, and one of the reasons we became lawyers because we couldn't get the service that we wanted, and lawyers were losing us easy deals, taking too long. That was affecting our business. They come, obviously clients are upset. They tend to always come in to see the agent because you've got a better rapport with them than the lawyers, generally speaking, in my experience. So it does have a massive impact on the business. And I see you've grasped it, and I can see it's making a massive difference to you. So that's really good. Now, let me ask you a question. You look to me, Andy, like a motivated person. Anyone with the title performance director has got to be motivated, right? So what's maybe a mindset or a value that you have that you think has impacted on the way that you run your business? What's really helped you? What's something that you can share with the podcast listeners that they should adopt?
Okay, so mindset, that I think that means either nothing to somebody or it means everything to somebody else. It's something that I live by every day. My partner is the same. She is just switched on positive all the time. And I'd like to try and stay as positive as possible. Not for anybody just to think, oh, he's a positive person, but it really helps me through the day because let's say we're learning all the time.
Yeah.
If you can see any learning as a positivity, when you fall down, you need to pick yourself back up again. If you can pick yourself back up and then when the pain's gone away, have a look and find out what you could improve on, you can then improve for the next day. As long as you learn from anything that goes wrong and don't make the same mistake again, I think that's just a really, really valuable takeaway for anybody, because if you're in that mindset, you're constantly improving. And it's tough. People sometimes get, you point out something that could go better. If you're the kind of person that takes that very personally, I understand that. But when you grasp the fact that nobody's perfect, that means you grasp the fact that everybody can improve. And when you are in the mindset that you can improve, doors just open. Big, big doors just open. And you can move down a big road of improvement. You get better every day and you learn things every day. We're always learning. We're always failing. I've made millions of mistakes. I've learned from them. My early career, I didn't. But my later career, I've started learning from everything. And that really, really helps me. If I can be slightly better every day, I'm going to say that.
I told you you'd be inspiring, Andy. I told you you'd be inspiring. Okay, so I take lots of points. I just want to point out that you've said there. Okay, so first of all, there's a really good book by a lady called Carol Dweck, and she talks about the difference between an open mindset and a closed mindset. Okay, so she calls it slightly different, but essentially one mindset is that you've got a fixed ability to do things. So when you feel like you've got a fixed ability to do things, any criticism you take as personal because you think, well, that's the best version of me, I can't do anything more. But if you've got an open mindset, a growth mindset, what happens is you take that feedback and you think, you know what, actually, if I worked harder, I could achieve that. So failures are a massive learning opportunity. And, we've had some of the most successful people I've ever come across have been the biggest failures. Like there's a really good speech on the internet from Jeff Bezos, runs the owner of Amazon. And he said he's made a multitude of $1 billion mistakes. Imagine making $1 billion mistakes. Imagine that. But he said he's learned from that. And that's to some of his most, like Amazon Prime is one of his most successful products. Amazon Cloud, the storage, one of his best products. So he's just learned from his mistakes. So that's one thing that's really important. I think, and in your position, I think it's really important that we set for, teams that it's okay to fail, because otherwise they're too scared to actually push the boundaries. And anything that's good in life, it always comes outside your comfort zone. So you're always going to be pushing. And if you're always pushing, you are going to make mistakes. So I think that's what you said was beautiful, and definitely something I'd like to hear from the performance director. Now, we're almost done, Andy. I've got one other question I always ask my guests. I say, if you had £100 to spend, what article or thing or whatever you'd recommend should someone be going out and saying, Andy recommended, I get this because Andy really loves it, it's changed his life. So what is it that you would recommend to our podcast listeners that they should run out and buy for under £100?
Okay, two things. Both I have. One I have with me because I knew this question was coming. And go and buy The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It is an astounding piece of literature. The 7 habits sound obvious when you read them, but how many people even do one? And when you start learning these habits and speaking to people and really having a growth mindset, it's an amazing thing. The best thing I own for under £100 is this.
Okay, what does that say? It's the other way around. God, what does it say?
This is what an awesome estate agent looks like. This is a mug that was bought to me by a fellow director at Spicer Hart, Kerry Davis. I've never used it, and I won't use it until I achieve what I need to achieve. Maybe I'll never get there. Maybe tomorrow I'll want to be better than I am today. Yeah. I've not used it yet because I've not achieved everything I want to. But when I achieve, I'm going to have the best tasting coffee ever in the world.
Wow. Look at that then. Okay, so 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That's a classic. It's one of the best. It's an all-time bestseller, but it's an amazing book. And it's old now, isn't it? But they've got updated versions all the time. But essentially, that is an amazing book. And I know some people that just have that book and they just read it all the time. And I actually read that probably once a year. I've read it a long time, but once a year, I always read it because you're always taking something fresh out of that book. So 100% definitely. And that's for everyone, isn't it, Andy? It's not for performance director only. It's for anyone in life. It's got some amazing life principles in there, isn't it?
Yeah, how to converse with people, how to listen.
Yeah.
How to truly listen.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
And the cup, I've got to get myself a cup like that now. And I think what we're going to do, Andy, is we're going to do this next thing now. I'm going to get what people recommend and see if I like them as much as everyone else. But you already got me because I love that book already. But I'm going to talk about that in another podcast, I think. So, Andy, I appreciate your time. And I said you're going to be inspiring, and you are inspiring. So you're inspired.
And I hope it was in a tiny way. I will take that.
No, 100%. Andy, thanks for your time. I'll say goodbye, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.